So what are the real differences between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris in their worldview? I woke up thinking about this. I've been thinking about it all day, so I'm going to make another video. I think my ideas about it are becoming clearer, and so I'm making a video about it. Okay, so Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, both of their first assumptions before they create their worldview as I see them. All right, Jordan Peterson, the individual is sacred. There is something sacred, special, holy about the individual. Sam Harris, his first point I see as being we can objectively identify things that are good, human flourishing, things that create human flourishing, support human flourishing, and things that are bad, things that create human suffering, the opposite of human flourishing. That we can objectively identify those, and once we do, we can then move towards the human flourishing. Okay, as his first premise. Okay, the main thrust of Jordan Peterson's message, as I understand it, is basically fixing up, as he likes to say. Put yourself together, the individual. And it seems like what he's managed to do is like mass scale individual psychological interventions, basically, where he's speaking personally, individually to whole groups and having individuals take responsibility for putting themselves together, right? That's kind of what his main thrust is. And Sam, unfortunately, I've seen him in interviews in a half a dozen different, multiple interviews in half a dozen different formats, as well as watching. I've probably listened to at least 20 hours of his own podcast. I've seen him in debates. I've probably watched 4 or 5 debates with him. And actually maybe 4, yeah. Debates with him. And it seems like the main thrust of his message whenever he's speaking is trying to undermine religious belief. And religious value systems. Okay, so how does Jordan Peterson accomplish the main thrust of the putting people together? Okay, small scale, personal betterment, tiny little programs. Fix your room, tell the truth, focus on just in the moment petting a cat. If you see a cat, not trying to focus. Bring your time frame down to small little things. Don't get over involved in your children's lives where you start protecting them when they need to be made strong. He's got all these like small, stand up with your shoulders back. Just really small scale little personal things that you can do to put yourself together. Cleaning your room. Sam, very rarely do I see him talk about things to apply, things specifically to do. This reminds me of one of my favorite philosophers, Henry David Thoreau, who said, is there any wisdom not applied to life? I believe is what he said, right? Is there any such thing as wisdom not applied to life? So you have to have, whatever your message is, whatever you're teaching, preaching, whatever, you need to have it applied to life to really have any sort of value. And on occasion, he's talked about meditation. On one time about the value of telling the truth. Freedom of speech is definitely a big thing that he talks about. But not too many methods by which he's going to accomplish his main thrust, to get his worldview adopted, accepted, influencing the world. Okay. Jordan Peterson sees stories, archetypes, mythology as a way that people understand and express their understanding of the world, act it out, tell it in a story. And so I guess he sees it as really like a positive way of understanding that and then helping people understand the world. And our societies are built on, these stories. Whereas it seems Sam Harris thinks that the stories they get in the way of people understanding the world. They get in the way of people rationally understanding the world. There's a fundamental difference there in the way they see stories. Sam sort of sees it as like stories are the thing that can get rational people to do crazy, irrational things that they wouldn't do without being influenced by these myths and stories. And I think Sam wants society ordered rationally. I guess the way I understand it, it seems like Jordan Peterson is more about really small-scale individual interventions, improving the character of the individuals that make up a society. And the best that I can understand it, Sam is more kind of like a mega social intervention. Like, we as a society should understand what are the things that make human beings flourish, and then we as a society should then, push those things or mandate those things, or because if it's just each individual is choosing what makes them flourish, then we're kind of already doing that. You know what I mean? People are pursuing what they think is going to make them happy, right? And more or less that's what we're doing. I guess Jordan Peterson is trying to say that you need to take on responsibility and set yourself these small little tasks to make yourself incrementally better. But it seems to me like Sam has like big plans for how we're going to, as a society, reduce the suffering and increase the flourishing of everyone as a whole, And another thing is that I think Jordan Peterson's "the individual is sacred" is not necessary in Sam's worldview. I've heard Sam say that we have an inherent, as humans, we have an inherent understanding that the individual, there's value in the individual, right? And not just a cog in a machine or whatever. I'm not so sure how strong that is. Just look at history, man. People had no problems. Like literally, I was listening about Genghis Khan, and just the brutality, not only of him. I mean, like in ancient history, everybody, right? Just lining people up and lopping off their heads, and just fields of corpses and decaying human flesh. Just brutal factory-style execution of giant bags of human ears to prove that the population had been, wiped out. It's just brutal, man. I'm not so sure how just universal and strong that is. I'm a little worried about that element of Sam Harris's point of view, because he's made it very clear when talking about Trump that he thinks Trump is bad and diabolical and dangerous and tearing down our society, and that his supporters are just they're just putting up with this really kind of diabolical figure because they think it's fun. So he's surprised at the moral character, the low moral character of 40% of the population in supporting Trump. That sounds to me like they're not flourishing. And in what society do we say, well, Trump won, but he's going to lead to definite not flourishing of humans? So we have to negate that election because, whoa, that's going to create suffering, not flourishing. And then you've just created an armed conflict, and, in the middle of that, shout out, everybody, hold on, we're creating suffering. There's not flourishing going on here. Everyone put down your guns. I'm sorry, but Trump is out. You're going to have to find another society. We're flourishing here. That's the problem, is that this top-down control of what is positive. I mean, that's what everyone's doing all the time, right? This is not acceptable in our society. This is not flourishing. It's much safer to first think about do no harm and just trying to get people to clean their rooms, organize their personal lives, take responsibility in their life for something challenging, putting their family together, telling the truth. Like, there's very few ways that that's going to backfire and create hell on earth. But trying to engineer a society to move towards flourishing, I mean, that's what the communists did, right? That didn't turn out too well. So, I don't know. Seems like Sam is more utopian and Jordan is more pessimistic. And I think there's some healthy pessimism there. And then what I woke up with today in my mind, the thing was repeating over and over in my mind when I woke up today, was that Jordan Peterson sees himself in the service of something, right? He likes to not talk about a higher power so much. He likes to keep it all with like psychological significance of this or that story. But he does see himself as in the service of something. And I think Sam sees himself as in the service of like a higher power, whereas Sam sees himself, I think, in the service of consciousness maybe, or his mind, or he thinks that like he's figured this out and all these other people are deluded by these crazy religious stories, but he's got it figured out, and if everyone can just see how they're wrong and he's right, then I don't know. Well, okay, so I'm getting my ideas together about this. This is something I can't stop thinking about. These videos that I make are in large part for me trying to figure things out. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect, and I'm muddling along. Please tell me what I don't know. If you know and I don't, please tell me. Leave them in the comments section below. If that's asking too much, I know it takes a while to like really type something out. You can just leave a single sentence and maybe leave a link to something that would enlighten me, and I'll watch those and respond. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.